content for people like we're trying to do right now, then what it'll do is it'll reward you. And today, what we're talking about is how to use and how to connect specifically, all the tools that you have available to you: Google Analytics, Google Search Console, what else? Your YouTube channel, etc., to your Google My Business page, because really that Google My Business page is kind of like your central hub as a local business. Not just kind of is, it is. And so when you connect, if you just think about it from Google's standpoint, okay, there's, in the beginning, 7-8 years ago, there were a lot of businesses that were just claiming or setting up Google My Business pages, and they weren't verifying them. They weren't, really, it wasn't really their address, and they weren't really engaged on the platform. And the same thing applies to Yelp. And for that matter, pretty much any platform that you're trying to optimize for, is if you don't create content for it, and if you don't use the tools that they give you, then they're just not going to give you the results that you want. And I can't think of any better or bigger tool for a local business based on results, right, Crystal? I mean, we've seen, Steven Rosenberg and guys like him significantly benefit from spending a little time utilizing these tools, connecting these tools together, building their foundation, so to speak, which is, in my opinion, is doing this kind of stuff for local SEO. And because that's really what we're talking about, is local search engine optimization. Mm-hmm. And obviously getting more reviews. And, specifically as it pertains to the Google platform, like I said, it doesn't get any bigger than Google My Business, because that is what is going to allow you to show up on the maps, literally show up on the map. And when you connect these tools that Google gives you access to, analytics, the YouTube channel that you're using for your business to create content, your Google Search Console, these are tools that, man, why not take advantage of anyway? And what you can do is, and the thing, and like I said, if you think about it from Google's standpoint, just think about it for a second. I mean, if Google sees that you've taken the time to set up a Google Analytics account, a YouTube channel, and a Google Search Console account, and connect, and maybe even an AdWords account, and you connect all those accounts, and there's many more accounts that Google has. I mean, you can set up, there's so many different tools that Google gives you access to. And if you connect that Google My Business page, you can, by the way, you can connect, and let's just say the how. So here's the how. You can specifically connect the Google My Business page directly to these tools right in the Google My Business platform. Like if you go to your Google My Business page, you'll see that, it asks you, it says, do you want to connect this to your Google Analytics account? Do you want to connect your Google My Business account to your AdWords account, et cetera, and, or to your YouTube account? Now, I will say that, they are making it so that you can create videos right in your Google My Business page. So it's easier, but man, it does not take long to set up a Google Analytics account. It does not take long to set up an AdWords account or a Google Search Console account and connect your website to it. And if you do, Google sees that. And what you also would probably want to do, what I suggest that you do, is you use the same email address, Google account, Google Gmail account, to set up all these same accounts, so that Google sees that there's a common thread, that there is a, that there's a common thread between the setting up of all of these accounts. And, so you can have a owner and an admin account on your Google My Business page. And so I would associate the owner account to the email address that you're going to use to set up all of these other Google platforms and like Search Console, YouTube, etc. You can call them platforms, you can call them accounts, whatever you want to call them. But bottom line is, use these tools, platforms that Google provides you. And my suggestion is like I said, is use the same Gmail or Google email account that you use to set up your Google My Business page, or to own your Google My Business page, to basically set up these other platforms that Google offers you. Is there anything else that you would suggest, Kristen?
It makes sense that I find it very interesting that just these small, basic, little, simple things of just setting up this and that make such a difference in that, you can tie it all together somehow. And so your rankings improve that way. And I just find it so interesting that things so basic that you would, or I would naturally just pass over and think it wasn't that big of a deal whether I signed up or not, would make that ranking increase.
Well, it does, because, again, and if you think of it from Google's standpoint, I mean, what they want to know is, they want to know that you're an engaged, just like we like to have engagement with people that come to our website, with chat. Okay.
Yeah.
Google's measure of engagement and your engagement with their tools, the only way they can really measure that is to see if you're setting up these accounts, if you're using these different platforms that they offer. And why not? I mean, for goodness sakes, Google Analytics is the gold standard, really, for analytics out there, for measuring and quantifying the visitors to your site, the unique visitors, the bounce rate for your website. And you want to keep track of all these things, because when you do what we've always said this many times, Crystal, what you pay attention to can improve. If you pay attention to it and you identify what your goal is and where you're at now. If you don't know where you're at now, it's tough for you you can't set a goal for where you want to go. And if you're not paying attention to it and making it a part of your normal activities that you're doing, then there's just no way for it to improve. It's just not going to happen. And so when Google sees that you're using these tools, and it sees that you're actually paying attention to your bounce rate, and you're trying to improve your bounce rate on your website, that's going to help your search engine optimization, and that's what Google wants. Google wants to see that, speaking of engagement, that you're getting engagement on your website, and that people are staying there, and that they're scrolling down, like we've talked about in videos past. Yeah. They're scrolling down, from the top to the bottom. They're not just, bouncing, which a bounce is when somebody goes to your website and they immediately bounce right off. They just boink, they just go right to somewhere else, because they see that it has nothing to do, there's no value there. And that's not what Google wants. To create the best experience possible. It wants to serve up the best content possible that people are going to find engaging. And the only way they can quantify that is to see if people are actually engaging with your website. And how do they quantify that? By connecting Google Analytics to your website. So it would only make sense, because look, you're going to pay attention to it, and they're going to see as well. They're going to be able to see when they have analytics on your site. They'll be able to see more data and quantify and see if people are having a great experience. And more importantly, though, you can affect those numbers as well, because you can finally start paying attention to them and do things like add chat to your website so that you increase the time on site. Okay. And which is another big parameter that you want to you'd pay attention to with analytics, if you have analytics connected to your website. And if you have like the Google Search Console connected to your website, why would you want to do that? Well, because you get amazing additional insight into the visitors to each page and how long they're staying there and what pages are getting the most hits. And same with analytics. I mean, you can get all this in analytics too, but Google Search Console, I think, used to be called Google Webmaster Tools. And it just gives you additional insight into what's going on your website. And then of course a YouTube channel. I mean, it just goes without saying. I mean, if you want to create content as much as possible. And that's just another way for Google to see that you are, look, if you're creating valuable YouTube content, and especially if you take that YouTube content and you do what we do, which is to embed those videos on your website, that's going to increase the time on site. It's going to decrease the bounce rate. It's proven. Stats show it all the time. And you can see how it's like a snowball effect. You start using these tools that Google provides, whether it's a YouTube channel, Google Search Console, analytics, etc. And you're going to create a better experience, which is what Google wants and what you want as well for the people that visit your site. And you're going to be able to measure it and see what's going on with the analytics and Webmaster, or Search Console. And so it only makes sense. And that is primarily just why Google wants you to connect your Google My Business page to these other platforms, because they know that it's going to create a better experience for the people that actually go to your site and engage with your content, and it's just going to create a better experience.
That makes sense. And two, in our Safari, when I would go and I would ask you the top 3 questions that would show up for local SEO, I found it rather interesting that one of the top questions is, do I have to keep track of analytics? Like, it was a nuisance. And I would think, why not? Why wouldn't you? From what we know, but I really tried hard to understand from a new business or, standpoint, or a new Google My Business page standpoint, as far as why you wouldn't think that's valuable, but I couldn't come up with anything. I find it so interesting that was one of the top questions.
In other words, why would you want to keep track of your analytics thing? Yeah.
It was, do I have to keep track of analytics?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's really saying the same thing why do I have to? Do I have to? And yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, only if you want to get more inbound phone calls, then only if you want to increase your business. I mean, that's that's all. That's the only reason that I can come up with.
Yeah. And then yesterday, we had talked about playing the guessing game. That's kind of what happens when you don't pay attention to stuff like this or the analytics. You end up playing the guessing game and wasting time and getting frustrated and, spending money on stuff that doesn't need to be spent on.
Absolutely. And we're going through a revamp of our site right now, because we've actually been paying attention to the analytics and the numbers, the simple numbers, which is, not just time on site and bounce rate, et cetera, and what pages are being visited the most, but, what results are we getting in terms of actual leads or conversations that are being started? That's our big parameter that we're paying attention to now. And we have seen a huge market increase. We've seen a huge increase in time on site, decrease significantly in the bounce rate from our website, and this huge increase in the number of leads, like double so far. And what's really fun is looking at this data and finding and creating and identifying and tweaking what you're doing on the website so that you can improve these numbers, and so that you can have, and what it really comes down to, so you can have more engaging conversations with people and et cetera, from your website. And what it does, it's really fun, because when we tweak one thing, we see the effect that it has on the bounce rate and other, parameters. And when we add video, for example, to the website or the homepage, we see how that affects things. And it's immediate. It literally, when you change these things, the impact can be very, very dramatic. And you'll see Google will reward you when you get a decrease in bounce rate and an increase in time on site. You'll see that all of a sudden you'll just start showing up more in search. And I call it the silent killer, because you don't know that how good it can be until you actually experience how good it can be.
Yeah.
And so you just go along, just like with, local SEO or not doing it, you just go along, or like this person that asked, why would I want to pay attention to that stuff?
Yep.
Well, the reason why they're asking that question is because they don't even understand, they don't know what they don't know.
Yeah.
They don't know that, okay, if I actually did this, and this is what most people say, like when people add chat to their website, so they can start conversations. I mean,
yeah.
I hear it over and over and over again, and people start doing and paying attention to local SEO and getting reviews. They're like, man, why did I do that? Why didn't we do this sooner? And why didn't we pay attention to this before? And the reason why is because they just didn't know that it could be this good if they actually just pay attention to these things. And we're guilty of that too. Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, even from the live video that you did with Steve Rosenberg yesterday and talking about consistency, I mean, that plays a huge role in paying attention to your insights and staying consistent. And then the other thing, when we talked with Jason, property management company yesterday as well, he talked about how, well, maybe this isn't the question that you should be asking. You should be asking this question instead, of kind of looking at it in a different perspective of what are they really trying to ask, rather than do I have to keep track of my insights?
Well, and so what we like to talk about is the should ask questions, not the frequently asked questions. Those are the questions that everybody asks. Okay.
Yes.
But they ask those questions from a place of they don't know what they don't know. And whereas if they knew what they didn't know, they would be asking a different question. And because Jason is an expert in what he does, this is why we create content with him, so that he can highlight and pose the questions that people should be asking, but they don't know to ask those questions because they don't know what he knows. Yeah. And that's what makes an expert an expert. And that's where value is derived from. That's where the most value is derived from, because those are the questions that can give somebody a quantum leap from where they're at currently to where they can be once they understand the should ask questions, the answers to the should ask questions. So anyway, I think, if you want to get a hold of us, go to our website and chat us up. We got a chat bot there, and we love engaging with you. I receive the chat notifications right on my phone, and we've got a reputation quiz we can send you to. We are going to be revamping our website, but the great thing is that you can engage with us whenever you want to, and we will respond. I will respond to you, or Crystal will, or somebody on the team within 5 minutes.
Yep. And then keep in mind as well, Monday through Friday, we are live sharing successful strategies with you on how to become the go-to business in your niche. So this week we did discuss Google My Business. Next week, it's going to be all about reviews and your online reputation. And then the week after that will be local SEO. So send us a message at m.me/accelerate marketing. Even if it's just to say hi, or if you have a specific question, we'll definitely respond back with an audio message or a video message.
Yes. And so next week, what are we talking about? Next
week, we will talk about online reputation and reviews. I did notice too that Google My Business just sent an email out that they are going to start incorporating notifications to your email once you receive a review on your Google My Business page. And so they're kind of tweaking that a little bit more to where you can reply back specific just from that email. Instead of signing into the Google My Business page, you can just reply back to the review from the email notification.
Wow. I didn't. Yeah. Okay. That's really cool. I mean, basically what they're trying to do is they're just making it as easy as possible for people to respond and to engage, because, that has been a big challenge for us over the years to get our business owners to just respond to those reviews. And we've talked about that. Yeah. Just sign, that way it just makes it easier. I mean, we make it super easy because you can actually, with the system that we use, you can actually even just text,
Yep.
you know, in the responses. And so
we
yeah,
went up
really
Google.
cool.
No, I'm just
Yeah.
kidding.
Right.
But yeah, but I also think, you know, take that as a sign. Google is saying reviews are important, you know, so take that as a sign. But we'll continue on this conversation next week and talk about online reviews. And if you have any questions, you know, specific towards online reviews, and you want us to touch base on that topic next week, let us know at m.me/accelerate marketing.
Yeah, or just go to accelerateyourmarketing.com. Yeah, accelerateyourmarketing.com, and you can chat us up there as well. Either one, we'll engage with you within 5 minutes.
Perfect. Create a great rest of your day, everyone.